Live streaming is on.
Good luck. Have fun.
Thank you.
Just one moment, everyone. I need to log back out and come back in.
Streaming is on.
All right, it's 10:30 a.m. and we do have several competitors who are double entered. So let's go ahead and get started right away if the other two judges are ready.
I'm ready.
Ready.
Fantastic. First of all, would like to congratulate everyone on making the final round of After Dinner Speaking at the 2021 National Online Forensics Festival. Congratulations. All right, let me look at my ballot now and see who we have here. Caroline, since you are double entered, do you want to go first?
Yes.
All right. Let me go ahead and get the timer ready.
Can you all hear me and see me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
One moment. All right, whenever you are ready.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Caroline Show with me, Caroline. As many of you might know, a lot of my YouTube videos where I rank covers of my favorite song sung by me, Caroline, were recently taken down. I was shocked. And my 13 subscribers are very mad too. I know I have a lot of fans, but apparently I have a lot of haters too. Despite personally ranking all of my videos a 10 out of 10, one YouTuber commented on my cover of Nicki Minaj's Super Bass and said, "Bro, I can't understand her." He was clearly not one of the boys with a boom system top down like see with a cooler system. But then someone comments a link to this article from the conversation on February 8th, 2021 that says hearing a foreign accent can lead people to immediately think that person is uneducated. Rude! My advanced brain learned your language that has way too many silent letters. Well, we all know that people with an accent often face discrimination, but in the most accepting of places, forensics, this discrimination still happens. According to Al Jazeera, October 16, 2021, people are hiring coaches to train them out of accent to avoid racism. Rude! Again! Just learning how to deliver these lines so you all will laugh at my jokes, it's hard. American humor, 1 out of 10. And in order for us to make the forensic community better, we need to understand how certain accents are developed. You know what I mean. So, in today's super special episode of The Caroline Show, I will rank how English is learned as a second language, how that impacts forensics, and finally, implications. Because it's been only 2 years since I started learning English, and now I'm at a national speech tournament. I rank this 11 out of 10. While doing research for this episode, this guy, Chat, from my speech class was like, "Caroline, there's no discrimination against people with accents. There's even a movie that has an all yellow cast and they all have accents and people loved it." You know what that movie was? Minions! Subscribe to my channel and made a video ranking this movie a 9 out of 10. I know, I was hard on them. So, to begin this episode, we will talk about how English is learned, and specifically, how tones are learned. First, learning new languages, it's hard. I would know, I can speak 10 languages. Vietnamese, English, Japanese, Korean, Chinese, and all the love languages so I can date whoever I want. According to TEFL Academy on January 21st, 2020, one of the ways that English is learned is through repeating words. True story. I first began learning English by listening to Kesha's song, TikTok, over and over. So, like a true white American baby, my first English words will also wake up in the morning, feel alive, P. Diddy. Cute, huh? Like me and Kesha, students often copying by ESL teachers who over-exaggerate the facial expression and tone. For example, if I was to teach you how to say the word happy in Vietnamese, I would say vui, like this, to help you remember. The same thing happens to ESL students that when we learn a word, we automatically learn the tone that goes with it. And separating these two can be hard. Audiolingo of September 30th, 2020 state that this is especially true for Vietnamese and Chinese students because our languages are tonal, meaning that the word ma, and ma all have different meanings. So in my previous episode of my show, I ranked different speech events in forensics. Pros. So emotional. 10 out of 10. CA. So smart. 10 out of 10. NFALD. So scary. 10 out of 10. And while I did rank all the events 10 out of 10, there are some parts of forensic that I need to rank a little bit lower. So let's discuss how ESL process affect our preparation and competition in forensics. Even though my advanced friend had no problem learning 24 languages, preparing a speech for forensic can be hard. According to Folk May 27, 2020, we get used to saying words and phrases in the exact way that we learned them. For example, remember my famous first words? Wake up in the morning, feel alive, P. Diddy. I only know how to say it like this because that's how I learned it from the song. So when my coach told me to deliver that line in a more serious tone, it sounded like, wake up in the morning, feel alive, P. Diddy. And honestly, I am trying! According to an article written 5 minutes before I start learning English, Medium on June 28, 2018, state that people learn English from entertainment media. So when your teacher are pop stars and actresses, this is the result. But this should explain to you our difficulties in forensics, where we are still docked for being not natural, not realistic, or over-dramatic. Even when this isn't said in a ballad, it's not because of the content, memory, or time. It's because our delivery doesn't fit the forensic norm. We all know what a 519 good job ballad means. The judge is drunk, or they just couldn't figure it out how to tell you it was your accent. And that is very a 1 out of 10 behavior. So for my next video, I will rank different accents based on how much I like them. Just kidding. I'm not gonna do that video because I'm not a racist. So instead, let's talk about the implications so we all know where forensic is getting better and what we have left to do. While there are judges who do not rank us on our accents, there are ones who still do. Sundial Press on January 21st, 2020 state that this type of discrimination highlights who people believe belong and who does not. And this also applies for forensic competitors. However, recently there was a small change that made us feel more welcome. Apart from the way we speak, if our names are too foreign, they get mispronounced. We all know that moment in the words, or what I call the ethnic pause, right before a Swedish tournament director has to say a foreign name. Looks like we're not the only one who needs to work on our pronunciation and pausing. According to my email on March 19, 2021, after emailing the creator of ForensicTournament.net, he added a feature that now allows coaches to submit phonetic spelling of their student names. And while this may seem small, it was huge for foreign students like me because it showed to us that forensic is accepting all kinds of speakers. I hope that more coaches will recruit more non-native speakers. Do we need more speakers who talk like, their name is Chad, they went to law school? No. Do I want to cyberbully those type of speakers? Maybe. We should expand our standard for what is considered good delivery in forensic, a public speaking class, and in the whole world! Okay, we're at the end of this very special episode of the Caroline Show. Today, I went over a 12 out of 10 main point 1, and a 12 out of 10 main point 2, and finally, a 15 out of 10 main point 3. Hopefully, this pandemic will go over and we get to travel again. So, let me end this episode with some helpful advice. When going to China, if you say 我要口罩, it means I need a face mask. But if you say 我要口罩, it then means I want a blowjob. Subscribe to my channel for more tips. Judges, may I be excused for my next round?
Yes, of course. Your time
Thank
was
you so much,
9:14.
everyone. Have a nice day, everyone.
All right. Evan, have you been to your, do you have events after this one to go to?
I have not, but I just got out of my IPDA round. I am not ready in the slightest, if that's okay.
Okay, so we should go on to someone else then?
That would be I preferred.
Okay.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Becky?
Hi. Can y'all hear me okay? Okay, awesome.
Whenever you are ready, if the other judges are ready.
Can you guys give me 1 second? Sorry, my dog is barking, so I'm going to put him out of the room. Thank you. I'm done.
Earlier this year, Oklahoma City Thunder basketball player Myers Leonard, whose name is totally backwards, was playing Call of Duty when he called another player a fucking kike bitch. In a press release, Myers claimed, "I did not know what the word meant at the time. This is what we like to call schmonces." Schmonces. Or as some of you may call it, bullshit. According to every single racist ever, anti-Semitism isn't just less bad, but rather it doesn't exist anymore. But this isn't Parler, and real sources are important. So according to a November 2020 FBI report, hate crimes against Jews make up 60% of all religiously motivated hate crimes in the US, despite only making up 2% of the population. But people tend to think that anti-Semitism ended with the Holocaust. Jews survived the final solution, so how can they ever face discrimination again? Jewish struggles are often used as examples, but when the Jewish community is actually struggling and targeted, suddenly Americans are silent or pretend to not know what anti-Semitism means. So today, as we relax and lean to the left, I'm going to show you how to combat anti-Semitism. Problems, causes, solutions. And since those who are discriminated against have the burden to educate the rest of the world, I'm going to highlight the beauty of Jewish culture while fighting anti-Semitism. Problems, there are two. First, people can't stop referencing Hitler or the Holocaust. In 2016, Time magazine reported Glenn Beck compared Trump to Hitler. ICE detention centers are compared to concentration camps. Great at grammar, you're a grammar Nazi, because nothing says white supremacy like the Oxford comma. This is like a reflex for goyim, or non-Jews, because they know generally Holocaust equals bad. But by comparing every single bad leader to Hitler, Americans actually belittle the horrors he committed. Shalom Auslander from the Washington Post writes in 2016 that while Trump flip-flops between actions and opinions, Hitler actually followed through with the final solution. The only thing they've got in common is terrible hair and small hands. Comparing them makes Hitler seem palatable, or that Trump is more important to history than he's been. Second, Jewish people continue to be ignored. Goyim are quick to make Holocaust comparisons, but no one is posting on Instagram about how anti-Semitic hate crimes have been steadily increasing since 2016. Max Cholik said in an interview in 2019 that people look at Jewish survival throughout history and think that justifies the end of anti-Semitism. But bruh, in 2019, the Anti-Defamation League documented over 2,100 reports of anti-Semitism, including harassment and assault. I get it. It's super easy to ignore a problem when you aren't attuned to it. It's like, if you don't step on the scale, you haven't gained weight. If you don't step on the scale, you haven't gained weight. Stretchy pants are just super comfortable. But Jewish suffering in the past does not discredit the discrimination still happening around non-Jews today. That's called tokenism. How do we get to the causes? Left turn at topical. Okay. Causes, there are two. Hitler is the big V and casual anti-Semitism. First, Hitler is the biggest villain in Western culture. Because of this, people compare everyone they do not like to Hitler and situations they do not like to the Holocaust. It's like how Christians use the devil as their polarity for badness. Except Hitler's real. But due to a general knowledge gap in world history, people latch onto the Holocaust analogy really easily. Godwin's law states that the longer an argument lasts, the more likely it is that someone will bring up Hitler or Nazis. Por ejemplo, I was once told that, as a Jew, I'm responsible for all of the actions of the Israeli government and will thus be responsible for the next Holocaust. First of all, Evan, that's not how the transitive property works. If you'd have passed algebra, you'd know this. Second, it's the Holocaust, not a Holocaust, because it's a name, just like how you're the douchebag Evan, not a douchebag Evan. Ultimately, all anyone knows is Hitler equals bad, so they compare all levels of badness to Hitler. Second, casual, prevalent anti-Semitism has become so woven into American culture, it's begun to feel like our heritage, like Confederate flags and cops who have Confederate flags. Anti-Semitism is defined by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance as a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as a hatred towards Jews. And it's the first half of this definition that goes unnoticed by the average American. Statements like Jews control the media, Jews are greedy, and Jews are funny count as anti-Semitism, even if I'm a coincidence. Ultimately, this is what leads to Jewish expulsions throughout history. And just for y'all schmagaggies, I've included a little history lesson to show you that yes, people actually hate us. The first recorded expulsion, Egypt. Duh. Then from Rome in 139 BCE, again in 19 CE, and again in 50 CE. We were banned from Jerusalem from 135 CE to 638 CE. The 10th century was characterized by expulsions from North Africa. We were banned from Lithuania in 1495, from Spain and Portugal in 1492, from England in 1290, from France in 1306, again in 1394. From most of Europe during the Black Death, from Russia from the 15th to the 18th centuries, from Germany and Italy from the 14th to the 16th centuries, from the Baltics, Poland, and Lithuania during World War I, and then we all know about that Holocaust, and many, many more. Oh, and also the US turned away Jewish Holocaust refugees at the border, which is why my mom isn't just Jewish, but Colombian as well. Look, trauma is generational. I was not alive in 139 BCE, though I'd look great if I was. But understanding the pain of my people is a large part of growing up in a Jewish household. It's literally a point of our holidays. Seeing one person's success as an excuse to gloss over the pain of millions of others is not just problematic, it's dangerous. Good and better are not the same things. So how do we actually make things good? Wow, I'm so glad you asked. Lucky for you, I have some solutions. Initially, learn about Jewish life and history and speak with the Jewish community. Chances are you already have. Colombian Jew. I'll do you one better. Follow me on Instagram or TikTok. I've literally tailored them into platforms on Jewish education and culture, including fighting anti-Semitism. If you want to learn, watch, participate, or jump in, I encourage it. I'll drop it in the chat. I love teaching people about Jewish culture, but it's taxing. I've been doxxed, I get death threats, albeit horribly misspelled, but that's not the point. I'm doing this as an ADS because oy vey, this shit could use some levity, but not on Passover. Finally, call that shit out. We are very good as a community at calling out anti-Black and anti-Brown discrimination. So let's call this shit out too. Turns out the root of these are the same. White supremacy, yeah. See, even Ariana Grande's on board with this shit. So when someone wants to call Jews penny pinchers or oven dodgers, let them know that they're perpetuating white supremacy. Just because some dude I don't know owns a TV studio does not mean the effects of anti-Semitism and expulsion are gone. If y'all can wrap your heads around the existence of Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro, you can understand outliers and data sets. Understand the historical patterns. Oy Gewalt, it is because communities assumed we were doing just fine that led us to be kicked out in the first place. Oh, and if you suddenly feel the need to compare current events to the Holocaust, fucking don't. Or comparing somebody terrible to Hitler. We can talk about how terrible a human being is without comparing them to Hitler. Literally pick any GOP senator, like Mitchell McDonald's or whatever. So let's review. People suck. The Holocaust was real, and we need to stop using Jewish suffering as a point of reference for our crappy experiences. I waited in line at Starbucks for 30 minutes. What is this, Auschwitz? River, what does that latte taste like? Sawdust? Andate pa la chimba con esas michigas. Tú puedes guy kachen offen yam si quieres decir esas cosas. I rest my case. Thank you.
Evan, are you ready? Are the other two judges ready? Oh, looks like we may have.
Evan, you were muted if you were trying to say something. You're still muted. Nope, still
Maybe
here.
maybe try leaving the room and coming back.
Are you, is your setting set up to the correct microphone? It could have defaulted to a different one.
I had that same issue. If you're on a Mac, that's a pretty common issue with 8x8. Yes, if you want to restart, that's fine. Why don't we move on to Phoenix while we are waiting for you to reset? And we'll hopefully see you in about 10 minutes.
Can everyone see and hear me all right?
Yes, I can see you.
Perfect. And does this framing work for everyone?
Mhm.
Perfect. I have a bad habit of getting stabbed at 2 a.m. No, I'm not some kind of horror movie protagonist or final girl situation. I'm talking about tattoos and piercings, of course. You see, ever since I've started college, my family has been increasingly concerned about my future, which is a little ironic since college is supposed to like help you secure a future or something. But the reason why they're concerned is not because of my work ethic or my ability to perform a job well. In fact, it's because of, well, my face. Or rather, the 10 holes in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Somewhere along the line, I lost count, but that's completely irrelevant. According to an article by Psychological Science of June of 2020, the United States work field has a high level of discrimination against those with body modifications. HR departments continue to push the false narrative that just because I have some metal in my face or ink on my arm means that I'm less hireable for some reason. But this is simply not true. To unpack this issue and hopefully poke some holes in it, we are first going to take a look at why body modifications are so dang scary. Next, we're going to take a look at the impacts of this form of discrimination before finally seeing how a bunch of wacky college students and some judges can fix this issue. First, let's take a look at why body modification discrimination is so common in the workforce. I think a really great way to outline how the older generation tends to view body modifications is with a fun little story time. I've been an employee at unnamed big box electronics store for about 3 years now. And thankfully, I haven't received too many customer complaints about my ability to perform my job or the customer service that they receive. In fact, I haven't received any complaints at all. That all changed one day when a customer named Karen, because that was her actual name, came in. I thought this interaction went great. I helped her pick out a printer, I showed her how to set it up, and I sent her on her merry way, asking her to take the store survey when she got home. I thought everything was solid in a typical interaction for me, but Karen had some other ideas. In the survey that we received from her, it read, The original employee that was helping me didn't know that much about printers, so they got me another employee with so many piercings. I saw another employee in a different department with blue hair. Why is unnamed big box electronics store hiring these freaks? And to that I say, Karen, we're not freaks. We're the geeks. Geek Squad. Unnamed big box electronics store is Best Buy if you haven't gotten that by now. And even though this is just a funny story time I like to tell once in a while because it's a little bit funny, this perfectly outlines how the older generation and Karen's generation tends to view people like me with body modifications. According to an article by Pennsylvania State University titled, "Are Tattoos and Piercings Still Considered Unprofessional in the Modern Workforce?" They say that the reason why body modification discrimination is so common is simply because Karen's generation is the one doing the hiring. They don't like to see body modification, so they're not going to hire people with them. And we are not a protected class of people under labor laws. An article by USA Today titled, "Are Body Mods Still Considered Unprofessional?" goes ahead and contends this idea and states that the reason why this is such an issue for the older generation is because 10 years ago, tattoos and piercings were associated with things such as drugs, alcohol, sexual misconduct. You know, things most fraternities consider a Friday night. These are the standards that have been placed in corporate America for a generation, but we're starting to see more more common implications that are hurting minority groups across the world. So the number of implications, like my number of nose piercings, is 2. First, we have the effect on entry-level jobs, and then finally, cultural discrimination. Let's focus on entry-level jobs first. We are not talking about doctors, lawyers, pilots. We're talking about young adults and teenagers just looking to start their careers or get their foot in the door. Some entry-level jobs, such as the Chick-fil-A Employee Handbook, go ahead and state not once, not twice, but 3 times in their employee handbook that tattoos and piercings are strictly prohibited. Women are only allowed to have a single stud, and men are not even allowed to have that much ear jewelry. Who's going to tell Chick-fil-A that Jesus himself had 3 piercings? Going on, we are also seeing this form of legal discrimination go into a weird territory of illegal discrimination. And we can turn to the native people of Alaska and Canada, known as the Inuit, for this, and also the indigenous group of the Maori people in New Zealand for this. Let's take a look at New Zealand to see how discrimination against cultural face tattoos affects us here in the States. Going over to New Zealand, according to the New Zealand census, ever since 2017, they've had an increasing population of this indigenous group. And many people who live on the island state that they respect the cultures of this indigenous group and would embrace them if they were given the opportunity. However, corporate work culture in New Zealand is not reflecting the same sentiment. According to an article by USA Today, it took a major airline, Air New Zealand, all the way up until June of 2020 to lift the ban of cultural face tattoos amongst its airline staff. To make things even worse for this airline, they were using Maori designs in their plane and their logo. They were profiting off of the very indigenous group that they were discriminating against in their hiring practices. This is also a huge issue here in the States when the Inuit people want to get jobs outside of their communities. A lot of them are turned away because of their cultural face tattoos that represent their heritage and their family. This is not acceptable in any way, and this is exactly why body modification discrimination on an artistic form is also affecting on a cultural form. So now we got the heavy stuff out of the way. What can we do to fix this issue? Well, nothing right now since we're all stuck behind screens, but you get the gist for when we get out of the pandemic. First, we can take a look at how we can do this on a personal advocacy level. Many HR departments are pushing the false narrative that body modifications make you less professional or less capable of performing a job, which we know is not true at all. But how can we start calling them out for this? Well, when I said that Chick-fil-A does not allow body modifications, most of you probably weren't that surprised. But let's take a look at another company, Hollister. Just last summer, they released an ad campaign that chose to use tattooed, pierced, and unnaturally colored hair in their models. However, the Hollister Employee Handbook also does discriminate against these practices amongst their employees. According to Glassdoor Last Access, October 21st, 2020, their employees state that they're not allowed to have tattoos, piercings, or unnaturally colored hair. It's Hollister putting out one image to the world, but then hiring in a completely different way. And we need to start calling out this hypocrisy, whether it's on social media or letting them know that your idea of diversity includes people with body modifications. Another way we can start to fix this issue, and this is more for my future business owners and CEOs in the room, what you can start doing is practicing blind hiring. This is an extremely common practice, especially now in the digital era. In fact, this is how I got my job. Instead of focusing on a person's appearance, you're focusing on their qualifications, their skill sets, and what they can bring to the company. It's 2021. I'm sure half of us aren't even wearing pants right now. I know I'm not. And even though that this is not going to be an overall solution to end cultural discrimination in the workforce, it's definitely a very big step that we need to take to start having a more inclusive work environment. I don't want to change the way I look, and I don't think anyone should have to change how they look just to enter the workforce and secure a future for themselves. It's not right, and it's leading to a territory that's not cool at all. Thank you.
Your time was 8:34. Evan, do you want to try again?
Please tell me you can hear me. Oh, blessings. Oh, it's a great day. All right. Oh, that's exciting. Okay. Whoo-wee. I love technology. It's so much fun. This is the best part of speech, right, everyone? It's so great. Okay. Oh, boy. All right. Let me get this link in here. Oh, nope, that's not that link. This is that link. Okay. All right, let's close the chat because it prevents me from seeing y'all. Actually, whew. Okay, perfect. Do y'all need a second to finish up your ballots, so you're good to go? Okay, perfect. Just doing a sound check. Let's see. Yeah, that looks good. All right, let's get the show on the road. Cool. Okay, I can see. After being put in handcuffs, again, for going 80 miles an hour in a school zone, again, I was handed an $800 speeding ticket and an increase on my driver's insurance. I was only going so fast because I was racing a Jimmy John's driver. Again, I wanted to be freakier and faster. I thought I paid the ticket before the deadline, but it stayed unpaid for 9 months and my license was suspended. My recklessness, lack of executive functioning, and procrastination, all symptoms of ADHD, resulted in me paying $2,000 for an avoidable situation. $2,000! Think of all the Jimmy Johns I could buy. Point blank, it's expensive to have ADHD. So much so that there's a term for it. The ADHD tax. ADHD Traction of November 4th, 2020 defines the ADHD tax as the social and financial penalty paid by those with ADHD for having ADHD. Yeah, I said ADHD 5 times in the previous 26 words. Only 34 more to go. This tax manifests in insidious ways. Squandered scholarships from repeated classes, wasted money on expired food from procrastination, job loss from executive dysfunction, parking tickets from distractibility, and late fees for tardy payments of those tickets. The organization Children and Adults with ADHD, or CHAD, and I know we normally fucking hate CHADs, but this CHAD, like the Central African country, is pretty rad. CHAD, they explained in 2021, the ADHD tax prevents those diagnosed from meaningfully engaging with their diagnosis and learning how to financially handle it. The founding fathers once said, no taxation without representation. I'm saying, no taxation. Gotta keep my Benjamins, baby. We must address the ADHD tax. Here's how in 3 parts. Problems, causes, and solutions. Because I have no money. Please? The ADHD tax makes daily living unaffordable, which is ironic because when I got my speeding ticket, I was driving a Ford. I ended up losing that car. I lost focus. My Ford focus. 2 problems. The ADHD tax is expensive, and it makes the support we need unattainable. First, the ADHD tax costs too much. Young moolah, baby! The Journal of European Neuropsychopharmacology, or where Lil Wayne jots down his high thoughts, did a 14-year 2020 study of 83,000 people and wheezed that the direct and indirect costs for ADHDers and their partners total over $35,000 annually. That's more than forensics grad assistants make, but hey, the F is for financial distress, right, GAs? These costs stem from decreased productivity due to inattentiveness, education losses because of delayed graduation, and a lower quality of life because of executive dysfunction. In the same way that men with erectile dysfunction run the Playboy Mansion and have a lower quality of life. Or the quality of life is lower because Hugh Hefner is dead. Y'all pick. There's a reason that ADHD psychologist Morgan Bronson calls ADHD the erectile dysfunction of the brain. But it's because we choose to stigmatize ADHD that this continues. Second, the ADHD tax restricts support we need more than a Popeye's biscuit restricts my windpipe. WebMD in March 2021 explains that you have cancer and you're gonna die. Oh, that's a zit, my bad. That's on me. The National Resource Center on ADHD as well, they, with WebMD, explain that we benefit from behavioral therapy and social networks and psychotherapy, but not the social network of MySpace, because that died in like 2011. Adhd or Attitude magazine in 2021 explains, very rudely, that most insurance only covers meds and no behavioral support. That includes ADHD coaches, which are essentially life coaches, but they add HD to your life. Add ADHD. I'll just make a 4K joke next time. Good ADHD coach sessions can total $1,500 a month. I've worked with a more affordable ADHD coach since 2019. And she's the reason that my 7th time applying for university was successful. I wouldn't be giving this speech without her. Like the amount of squirrels that will distract me in this point, there are 2 causes. Our culture is neurotypical, and we care more about curing ADHD than accepting it. First, our culture is squirrel. I mean neurotypical. William Dodson, fellow at the American Psychiatric Association, February 2021, explains that when a neurotypical person goes to do a task, they have 3 factors: fear factor, X factor, and factory farms. It's where the squirrel lives. Or, is it important for me to do this? Is it important to others that I do this? And what are the rewards and punishments for doing or not doing this? For those with ADHD, these 3 concepts don't work as motivation. Late fees, shaming, demotions are all concepts built on notions of how neurotypical people think. By the way, neurotypical is what they also called my circumcision. They cut the nerves, neuro, off the typical. But the ADHD tax doesn't incentivize folks with ADHD to understand their own brains. It just continuously punishes them for not thinking like everyone else. Second, we care more about curing ADHD than accepting it. In 2017, Syracuse professor Yoon Jung Kim woke up and chose curative violence, her book where she argues that trying to cure mental illness remains the dominant framework for how society addresses conditions like ADHD. On the flip side, the submissive framework is when a Lincoln Douglas debater forfeits after getting spanked. Y'all know how it is. While we can't yet cure ADHD, pharmacological solutions effectively try by aiming to make those with it normal. In May 2020, ADHD coach Dana Rayburn, by the way, who looks at a beautiful baby and says, Dana, like that name didn't even fit to the baby till she was 55. By the way, I definitely had a judge at NFA named Dana. She was my drop rank for sure. Dana contends that the ADHD tax is an extension of a curative framework, a reminder that ADHD is not normal and should be fixed, not accepted. ADD is an outdated term for a type of ADHD. But if we ADD or add up the solutions, there are two. For those with this diagnosis and to those without. First, to my fellow ADHDers, there's no doubt medication is extremely important, but there are buzz-worthy options that aren't light years away. To infinity and beyond these options, the most important thing we can do for ourselves is to understand how our brains work. They are neurochemically distinct from neurotypical people, so we function differently. In the same way that a Baconator is like Peppa Pig, they are very similar, but have vastly different results. Oh, I'm so sorry, y'all. Was that joke not kosher enough for you? We need to figure out what works for ourselves. For example, I get motivation by working with others or competing in extemp when it's not racist. That joke will make sense after Richard's speech. I've been competing with him all the time. Love you, Richard. The ADHD tax draining me of financial stability doesn't help motivate me. Feeling supported does. Second, to those without ADHD, what you can do is open up a summer camp with kids struggling to focus. A concentration camp. It's okay, I'm Jewish, I get to make that joke. Okay, maybe Becky too, but I'm the douchebag, right? The ADHD tax gets applied often because those without ADHD mistake our condition for laziness. Similar to how Metanists get mistaken for social activists, when in reality, they're just incels. Wisdom can come from neurodivergent advocate Jessica McCobb's YouTube channel, How to ADHD. She treats her channel like a resource toolbox with videos like how to help someone who has ADHD. I put the link in chat. If we are struggling with inattention, something as simple as touch can help. Okay, well, don't touch us during this Peter pandemic. Sorry, y'all, that joke never lands. If we are procrastinating, gamifying, or offering small rewards can get us going. Like when I'm struggling to get motivated at the gym, I pretend like I'm at a gym in the game of Pokemon and beat the shit out of nearby animals. Gotta catch all those games. If we can't find motivation, the ADHD tax won't work, but encouragement will. Today, we've seen through the problems, causes, and solutions why it is taxing to handle the ADHD tax. Y'all, even accountants don't like this tax. By the way, if you're still accounting, 34, that's number 34. Ultimately, I was able to get my license unsuspended. So now when I'm in a school zone, I only go 69 miles per hour because screw those kids.
Time was 9:52.
Is it okay if I head to my other round?
Yes, of course.
Thank y'all so much. Good luck, everyone.
All right, I guess we are just waiting on Richard now. All right, it appears that our last competitor has arrived.
Hi everyone. I'm super sorry. The other round I was at went really long. I'm super sorry.
It happens. Glad you made it.
Thank you. Is it okay if I take a quick second to set up before I start?
Yes, of course.
Thank you so much.
Just turn your camera on when you are ready.
Okay, thank you. And can I do a quick camera check before I start?
Of course.
All right, cool. Does this work for everyone? All right, cool. I am ready whenever y'all are then. Extemp is what? For 3 key reasons. AFA finals, NFA finals, and I once watched an extemper look up from her note card to call Kim Jong-un the Chinese president. So what did the ballot say? I love how you connected Taiwan and North Korea. What T5? Yikes.jpg. 2 takeaways. 1, what the fuck was on that note card? And 2, extemp has a whiteness problem because that's how we teach students to play the game. Exhibit A, a 2020 Mankato study. Extempers of color, especially women of color, feel that they have to work significantly harder for success compared to their white counterparts. Exhibit B, a 2011 Mankato study. 62 coaches surveyed were asked what defines success in forensics. Only 7 answered education. Well, 7.32. That third of a coach is woke. But when our goals in extemp is about competition, winning the game, we'll tend not to give half a shit about advocacy, inclusion, or respect. Just ask all the extempers of color in the last 6 years of AF finals. All 26 of them. Out of 80. I knew about Farabera before I knew about substructure. Look, I can't tell you to just fire racist coaches or fund population serving schools. I've done that for years and y'all just threw away the handouts. But as an extemp coach myself, I can urge a fundamental pedagogy overhaul. Because when speech prioritizes gamifying extemp, competition over advocacy, it enables more whiteness than an AFA LP final judging panel. Like, seriously, go check. But I've only got 10 minutes for like 95 key reasons. So let's examine racism at 3 different levels in the extemp process. Questions, research, and content, with best practices following each. Because we already know the cause. Scholars are being told to play the game, not dismantle it. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that not enough? Obligatory narrative transition. When famous extemper Richard Hu was once writing extemp questions, a coach asked him, do all the questions have to be about race? Well, sure was. Colonize my homeland. Extemp colonizes too. So first, problems. Best practices. First, the questions we get are rooted in non-critical, colonial, problematic assumptions. Like this example from practice resource extempcentral.com. Does Burundi matter? Yes, they're people. Or just 1 month ago at the California CC State Tournament, where questions asked, should cabinet nominees have to answer to claims of racial bias? Or will anti-Asian sentiment after COVID? Yes. We don't need 7 minutes to explain this. The same coaches that write these non-critical, neutral extemp questions and still think we're doing boys and girls extemp are the same weebs that go watch Naruto. Don't you Nani me or Hokage me if you can't write better questions about people of color, because then speeches will take them for granted. So, coaches, write questions for practice or tournaments oriented around critical, non-white or non-Western perspectives so that your students don't have to colonize their note cards. For example, since Burundi does matter, try, what steps should refugees take to better assist Burundian refugees in 2021? Or why does anybody time ADS final? Like, why would you do that to yourself? So I've included a link in the chat to a course reader with best practices, including instructional citations on question types, formatting, inclusive language choices, and creating advocacy rounds. Because extemp shouldn't be about racism or gatekeeping. That's high school speech camp's job. Lying. I mean, extemp hurts sometimes. My brain can remember what the Wall Street Journal said the Dow Jones was like 3 years ago, but I can't remember what my dad looks like. So let's first problematize extemp research pedagogy, and next, prep some best practices. First, extemp research norms can go eat my ass, because I consented. The NFA Journal of 2009 highlights, extempers are expected to remember 10 to 13 sources by day, month, and year, with a footnote from some coaches that 13 sources wasn't enough. Like, 13 wouldn't be enough, I don't know, white interpreters snapping at ethnic performances? But the University of Michigan in January 2021 clarifies, academia programs source neutrality. The New York Times or the AP or the A2M are seen as more credible sources than Al Jazeera or post-colonial subaltern ethnographies because they aren't empirical evidence. So judges drop competitors for not using those empirical sources. Empirical and imperial sound real similar. And I know what y'all are thinking, but not all extemp coaches. That's the same thing as saying, but not all men. That Venn diagram is a circle. So, best practices. Reteach extemp citing expectations. If you want to hear 13 white bread sources, then you should probably let your students use note cards. And remember, the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal aren't the only sources to cite. Testimonies and primary sources matter too. Local sources like the Asia Times, or politically leftist sources like Jacobin, or the experiences of marginalized persons matter too. So I've included a link in the chat to a list of alternative article citations, as well as another article to get those conversations started. Because basing your ballot solely on elitist standards of credibility is more awkward than when coaches describe their time signals as, you get the fist at 0. I find this pleasurable. The Wall Street Journal supports fascism. Take a shot every time an extemper calls their points faucets of analysis, or white-splains Black Lives Matter to a black judge. Are extemp content pedagogy? Also racist. So let's first, problem, and next, solutions, best practices. Fuck! Don't drop me for not solving racism. First, passion and advocacy in extemp are seen at odds with neutrality. Critical scholar Laura Privadera's 2006 article reminds, objective argumentation is often code for Western, whiteness-latent standards of performance, evident in hand gestures, facial expressions, accent assumptions, everything. And critical scholar Bell Hooks backs that up. Neutrality is defined by white structures. Look, Friends, the show, is something we can be neutral about. But for folks of color, our oppression is not. And coaches use neutrality to shut out critical advocacy. Like when I was told not to pick questions involving Asians because no one wants to hear Ching Chong issues. Or when the 2017 NSDA International Extemp Champion started his attention getter by comparing SpongeBob burning down Bikini Bottom to the Syrian genocide. Like, not the student's fault, his coach's fault for actively telling him that being critical was less important than, I don't know, Garfield liking lasagna? So finally, let's do to extend expectations of neutrality what my dad did to me. Leave them behind. So say it with me. I've attached a link in the chat to an article that your students and your coaches can read together. Come on, y'all. Y'all are better than this. Maybe if everyone's mics were on. If we're training future leaders, don't tell them not to be passionate or be advocates and critique racism. If we wanted that, we get an internship with the RNC. Look, I've never truly felt at home in Extemp until my college coaches supported me, incorporating my life experiences into Extemp, like Asian American racism. Because that's what Extemp is about. Respecting what our students want to perform, not using them for a goddamn team sweepstakes trophy. To all the critical coaches and extempers of color, thank you for making this activity a better place. And let's keep doing that. Because I've done Extemp for 6 years now. And after 6 years, and after some problems and best practices, I'm tired of telling coaches that their students' advocacy means more than shiny white pieces of judge fragility, and that Kim Jong-un still isn't the Chinese president. Yet. So Kermit, is there anything else you'd like to say? Good cops are like your dad, Richard. I can't find him. I guess Kermit isn't into pigs after all.
Thank you. Time was 10:50. All right, that concludes the round. Thank you, everyone, for an excellent final round.
Thank you so much for judging.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have an awesome day.